Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Women's Chess World Cup. I specify women's because there will be the Open World Cup for the men and the women that want to compete later in the year in India. But this is the women's, and qualification for the candidates tournament is on the line. The top three all qualify for the candidates. What is the candidates? In case you don't know, it's to determine who plays the world champion. Ju Jun has just defended her title against Tan Zhongyi, and they've changed how candidates work. The runner-up of the previous World Championship no longer directly qualifies. So Tan Zhongyi, she's in one of these matches. She needs to qualify. So let's have a look. We're going straight to our third place game. Don't know what happened there with the graphics. It is Tan Zhongyi, and it is Lei Qinjie. The previous two challenges for Ju Jun's World Championship, she's defended against both of them. This is the bronze medal match. So the winner of this match not only finishes third, but secures a spot in the candidates. The first match was a draw. This is their second classical game. And it was interesting because Lei Qinjie took a draw in a better position. She was better in the first game. So how is she going to do when the times change? Now she's got the white pieces, and we get e4, e5. Knight to f3. Yeah, knight to c6. I don't know why the piece animations are so slow. Bishop to c4. Knight to f6. So an Italian game, two knights defense. We saw a lot of this yesterday when I was covering the Esports World Cup. D3, bishop to c5, short castles d6, c3, short castles, h3. So it's this type of system, very maneuvering, rook e1, h6. We're disallowing the bishops from going to, any of these kind of squares. Let me know if you like the board, the red. Bishop, knight b d2, knight to e7, and h4, a4, a4, a5, and d4. And this is kind of what you go for in the Italian. We get knight to c6 again, which is strange. I've never seen this particular maneuver where you go here wanting to go there. I've never seen a return visit, not gonna lie. I suppose what it does is it puts pressure. Maybe we just highlight normally. We put pressure back on the center. But for the life of me, got no idea. Because now you get bishop to d5. E takes d4. And now you can see there's a move here for Lei Qinjie that she must play in order to keep the game level. Actually, black is kind of doing really well here. And she does find it, knight to c4. All you do is you threaten the bishop. It's got almost nowhere to go except backwards. So we just play d takes c3. Takes, takes, and takes. So white is down a pawn. But black has a very poor structure here on the king side, with the queen side rather, with these three split pawns. But equally, white's not doing great with these pawns that are all just targets. So it's going to be very interesting. Of course, black also has that as a target. So it's going to be who can best attack and who can best defend their weaknesses. Rook e8, queen to c2, bishop to d7, and now bishop to f4. We get the knight jumping into the center, and you can see here, Lei Qinjie has to trade carefully. Knight to e5 is the only move. I'm not making that blue arrow. That is the engine telling you have to play knight to d4. After knight to e5. You have to play knight to d4, otherwise you're just going to be worse. And knight takes e5 is coming on the cards. Knight to d4. So she's finding the key moves. You can see she knows what she's doing. In hour 29, I think it was 90 plus 30. So the players getting here, they know what they're doing. D5, we take knight jumps back in between move to drop the bishop back, and now we trade. Trade and take in the center. And we reach this position. There's been a bit of clarifying in the center. We've traded off a few pawns. And black's up pawn advantage is in this doubled set, which is probably good for white. You can apply pressure to it. This knight is a very good blockader. And you've got still a bishop. You've still got your bishop here. So these are the two key points for white to be slightly better, but black's got a pawn advantage. So a pawn is a pawn. So let's see how they look to go forward. We get rook d1. which you can see declines the rook trade. You're down material, you don't want to trade, because in the end game, you're going to lose. You can see now Tan Zhongyi has to find an only move, and that's queen to g5. Everything else was completely winning for white. Your knight was hanging in the center of the board. In case you missed it, this knight was hanging. So you have to defend it and get out of the pin that was there. Anyway, okay. h4 is a very interesting move. You're just trying to kick the queen away from the defense of the knight. So we have to play queen to h5 and now rook to d4. Nothing too spectacular at the moment. Knight to f6, you just retreat the knight out of harm's way. And now Leighton J goes in with her knight. Hits the rook, hits the pawn, and we don't defend the pawn. We say, which pawn would you like to take? Because quite honestly, these are liabilities, so getting rid of one is not a problem. You can't take this pawn. So if you would like to take the pawn, you are more than welcome. How are you getting your knight back? Queen to b3. I say that because if you take, for example, your knight kind of gets stuck, and there are ways to trap it because it can't go back, to here, and getting back here might be a problem with like the rook coming in and stuff. Yeah, so like, oh, there's this also move rook e2. Rook e2, queen b3, and then like rook a e8. And you've wasted time. Interesting. Anyway, irrelevant for now. We have queen to b3 immediately, not getting hit with rook to e2. Now queen e2, which you can do, you don't want to trade queens. We gobble up this pawn and are threatening the other pawn, but knight to h5. Black is going for an attack on the king. While you are fuffing about with pawns on the queen side, I'm going for your king. We take one more pawn. Rook f8 defends the key point on f7. Even when you're going forwards, you have to make sure your king doesn't fall victim. And now white just very clearly has a pass pawn that can run up the board at any moment, provided their king doesn't get hunted. So, rook f1 from white, Leighton J, knight takes g3, pawn takes g3, and now queen e3 check, king to h2, knight to e5. We're threatening various infiltrations, but the king's pretty safe at the moment. Knight to c4, drops back, looks for a trade of knights, we don't get it, and the rooks connect on the 4th rank. Leighton J is up a pawn. She is down 14 minutes on time, which is not insignificant, but they've got bonus time for now. It's about how does she convert this. Black is better because they're like creating an attack, and your king's a bit weak. Maybe I should highlight it again. I keep forgetting. These pawns leave a lot to the imagination. Like, it's no good. Black has quick attacks, and we get g5, which is just about the only move. And now you can see the only way for Leighton J to survive, Tan Zhongyi's attack, is to gobble the knight in the center of the board, remove a key attacker. Instead, we get rook fe4, which simply loses to knight to f3, check. You can't take with the pawn because it's pinned, and after king to h2, we have rook takes. The winning continuation here, rook takes, loses the advantage, is to play queen to f1. And now you can just about not stop me. I'm coming in to mate you. There's various pawn forks, there's the rook coming in. Your king is not safe. There's nothing you can do. I mean, the engine starts, the longer it thinks, maybe white can survive, but it's not comfortable. But instead of that, we got rook takes e4 immediately. Rook takes, and now check, and king to h3, and f5. Sacrificing the queen, kind of, because you can't take it. You get mated. Boom. So, sacrificing the queen. Now you can see the only move here for Leighton J is queen to d5, which she finds. You've got to create counterplay on the king while they're open. King h8, and now g takes f3. I don't know why it's a brilliant move. I suppose it's because your rook's hanging. like the rook hangs, but it's the best move. Because as we spoke about, you can't take the knight because it covers key getaway squares. So you sack the rook after a couple of checks. We sack the rook like this, and we get to this endgame. So Lei Ting-Jie is down a exchange, but she does have pawns for it. We've got a 3-on-1 on the king side, where the kings are, and a 2-on-1 on the queen side, which could be a 2-on-0. But both kings are weak, and the rook is more powerful than the knight. So if the queens get traded at an inopportune moment, it's game over for Lei Ting-Jie. So rook to g8 check, king h5, queen takes g3. We're threatening infiltrations. And now, very important, where do you give checks? So Lei Ting-Jie goes queen to f5, not giving a check yet. Rook e8 is now the only holding move. Queen to f7, attacking the rook. Rook to c8, and now there's only one move still holding for Lei Ting-Jie. She must play, as you can see, queen to f5. Instead, she goes queen to d5, which unfortunately loses after rook to f8 back, and after queen to d4, queen to g7. And now you're going to be bust very soon. So we have to trade queens, and this is not a good moment to trade them for white, because even though the king can go there, h5 comes, check, and king takes h5, rook to f4. Hits the knight, hits the pawns, and we take one, and we go in, and we would take a second one, and this would be completely over. And you might ask, why can't you take the rook? Because this pawn promotes. Your pawns are 4 squares away, mine are 3 squares away, and I would stop each of your pawns. So let's say we push, 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 push. You get here, you're not fast enough because I queen. And by happenstance, I queen, it's b1 queen. King to g4 is the only move. And now I've got at least queen g1, which picks up the pawn on h7. At least queen g1, if not better. So Tan Zhongyi wins the game. Lei Ting-Jie missed a couple of chances. She'll be a bit gutted with 4th place. Tan Zhongyi wins the bronze medal match and advances to the candidates tournament. They will be joined by 2 other players that are from the Grand Swiss, 3 players from the Grand Swiss series. I'll make a video about that at some point when it's complete. 3 players from the candidates, not from the candidates, 3 players from the World Cup. I believe that makes about 6. There's a rating spot, I do believe, and there's one more spot. I'll make a video about it at another time when all the players have qualified. But yes, this was the bronze medal match. Let's now have a look at the grand final. The bronze medal match, we had 2 Chinese ladies, and the gold medal match, we have 2 Indian ladies, and one of which is an IM. Divya Deshmukh. I'm going to butcher the name, I do apologize. She's had a fantastic tournament, by the way. A performance of 27.45, she's gained like 25 rating points. She started off with a bye round 1. She beat a WFM 22.64 in 2 rounds. Beat IM Tendora Inacic in 2 rounds. Had to go to tie breaks against Eugenia GM from China, but beat her in the tie breaks. And then beat Hakiria Dronvali in the quarterfinals in 2 games. And then beat Tan Zhongyi in 2 games in the semifinals. An incredible performance. If she doesn't get the GM title from this, or at least the GM norm, I don't know what we're doing. She's had an incredible time. This is the second tiebreaker game. Both classical games were drawn, and the first tiebreaker game was drawn. So you can see they have 15 minutes on the clock. And this is very fascinating. So we have d4, d5. The first tiebreaker game was a Petrov. Now we've got d4, d5, c4, e6. So a queen's gambit. Knight to f3, knight to f6. A very traditional line. g3. So Humpy Koneru, who is a perennial top player in the women's division, I think she's the world rapid champion at the moment, actually, would like to play a Catalan. We get d takes c4, the classical main line. Bishop to g2, bishop to b4 check, bishop to d2, a5. This is what's played. Queen to c2, bishop takes d2, knight takes d2, and b5. And this is how you play. You might be worried about discoveries, but the bishop will get in time. a4, and now c6. Holds everything together. It looks so weak for black, but you just about survive. You've got to be completely precise going into this type of line. b3, c takes b3, knight takes b3, and short castles. Short castles. So the players, you can see Humpy has thought a little bit. From White's perspective, Divya knows exactly what she's doing, and Black is set up pretty well here. Despite the lack of development, Black's actually pretty fine, and is going to have a majority on the queen side for most of the game. So we've got bishop to a6, knight to c5, and just b takes a4. We take, rook takes, and what Humpy does is she doubles the rooks on the a file, looking to put pressure on the a5 pawn. Remember, black is up a pawn. So this is similar to the previous game, the late GM Tan Zhongyi game, where black was up a pawn early on, and white was looking to exert lots of pressure. Because the pawn that black is up, it's one of these two, right? Now, in all likelihood, this orange one here will get cancelled out. So it's the a pawn that has to make the difference for black. And it's very hard to move and very hard to defend. And while you defend it, black might create counterplay elsewhere. So the first big thing, we get queen to b6. Knight drops back to d2 because it would like to come forward, perhaps to b3 or to c4. Rook fa8, and now simply e3. Knight to d5, knight to c4. So we're bringing the knights towards the center. The one minor problem for white is this Catalan bishop is pretty closed. Like, there's lots of stuff in the way, and there's no real way to open it at the moment without creating weaknesses or hanging something. Queen c7, queen to d2, knight 5, b6. And now you can see Humpy Koneru, who is down to we'll call it 3 minutes. She's got 3 minutes versus 10. Horrible in a blitz game. In a rapid game, but it's effectively become a blitz game for her. We do get knight takes b6, queen takes b6, and now queen to c3. Game is completely level, but it's about hunting these weaknesses. So the weakness on c6 or the weakness on a5, and you have got a bishop versus a knight, but that knight can get itself well placed. Knight to f6, and a few moves later, knight to d5. We kick the queen away. We give up the Catalan bishop because it wasn't doing anything for us. We do get e takes d5. And now, can white exploit one of the two weaknesses? Black is defending them superbly, and there's nothing really for white. And white, being Humpy Koneru, is running out of time. She's down to 90 seconds. They do get some bonus, I believe. I'm not sure. I think it's 15 plus 10. And Divya has got 9 minutes and 30 seconds. It is incredible. We get rook ca1, h6. King to g2, queen b5. h3, queen b6. And black just doesn't do much, and neither does white for a couple of moves. We offer a queen trade. White has to keep the queens on the board. Queen to b6, rook b2, queen to d8. And, it's really difficult to make progress, and you can't just... this is the second tiebreaker game. They're going to go to shorter time controls. You've got to do something. h5. Black is going to make progress. h4. g6. Rook a1. Queen b6. Again, could be a repetition, but we push some pawns. King to g1. King to g7. King to g2. Queen to d8. They're just moving enough pieces to not get a repetition. Now queen to c5. Rook 8. a7. Rook 1 a2. Rook a8. Rook a1. Are we getting a repetition? No, queen c7. And now, finally, Humpy breaks. She plays e4. D takes e4, and she goes for d5, which is devastating. There's a move here. It's better for black, but there is a move. There are two moves that kind of still hold, and that's rook 1 to a3, or that's rook e1 to just go and try and stop this pawn from like coming forward and ruining your structure, or to just try and win it back. We go all in with d5, but now queen e5 check. Or not, it's not check, but queen e5 protects the pawn, and you might say, and now you can't take, so I'm, threatening to take it. So we do play rook d1, and here he's completely winning if you simply play just rook to d8. Rook to d8 is fine. Because now if you take, you get hit with some stuff. But unfortunately, Divya rushes maybe, plays c takes d5. Because she's still up a pawn and she's going to create counterplay. We get rook takes and she drops the queen back to e8. Queen d4 check, king to g8, rook e5. And now we're winning the pawn in the center of the board, and then the pawns are just about equal. Queen c6 still holds onto it for a little bit longer, but now we get a queen trade. Black is still up a pawn this whole game. Black is still up a pawn. But this is probably going to be a draw. It should be a draw. 2 rooks versus 2 rooks. It's just so difficult. It really is. These endgames are so technical. It's easier if you trade one set of rooks, but you've got to trade them under the right circumstances, because otherwise the a pawn just runs down the board, and there's no stopping it. So this rook's doing a good job blockading. We're going to probably try to swing the other rook this way. But with the rooks connected on the 4th rank, it's not too bad at the moment. So rook to f6, rook to e5, rook f5. Big decision here to trade and damage the structure. And king to f3, and king to g7, and king to f4, and king to g6. And king to e5, rook a6, not allowing the king in. But, king d5, f4. Say takes, but now I push. You should not have taken that pawn. You should have played something like king to d4, because you're not scared about this. You just take, and it's fine. You're fine here. This king can't get in. Because the moment you try, you've got king d3, and then you can't get in. So there's no need to take the pawn because your rook was blockading. It's a split-second decision, and now a4. And you do get back, but now your rook is kind of pinned in, and the black king got in, because while you were wasting time with your rook, the black king got in, because the pawn moved out the way. a2 paralyzes the rook, and now just play rook a3. And at some point, I can just give up my a pawn and go for your other pawns. So we get you, oh no, king f4. Just about keeps advantage. What Divya should play here is f5. Which looks strange, because you're like, what about takes? Then don't I just have a pass pawn? You don't have a pass pawn. And now I just play, f5, and now king f6. King f4, rather. And this is still completely winning. I'm going to feast on all the pawns. Oh, this is a draw. Yeah, you should play king f6 for some reason. Yeah, king f6, h6. And you get in here. Interesting. Anyway, king to f4 comes in, takes, and now you have to play king to e4 to hold the game. That's how desperate this situation has become. You have to play king to e4. f5 is a miss. Humpy Koneru can still hold this game. 27 seconds versus 40. If she plays king to d5, which she does. f4. And now she has to find the only move again, which is king to e5. But she misses it. She goes for h7. What she forgets is we get takes, and king to g3. Because you can't get back. And this pawn is too far advanced. And the game ends with king to g2. A dramatic end to the game, I think. King to d5, Humpy thought she might be holding on, but in a time scramble you play h7, and this is unfortunately just a winning endgame for the black pieces. And it was not the a pawn, but the a pawn was part of the problem, and it was the one pawn that she had up the whole game. Divya Deshmukh, I'm so sorry, Divya Deshmukh. I'm so sorry. She wins the Women's World Cup, and what a performance it really was from her.